is going to be a great week. And I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible President, Joe Biden. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
Vice President Kamala Harris making a surprise appearance on the first night of the Democratic National Convention, speaking for about 2 minutes after walking out to thunderous applause from the audience. Throughout the evening, we saw speakers deliver impassioned remarks to a fired-up crowd. The lineup included a who's who within the Democratic Party, like Hillary Clinton, Congressman Jim Clyburn, Congressman Jamie Raskin, and Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky. There were also non-public officials like UAW President Shawn Fain, NBA coach Steve Kerr, and several abortion rights activists. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe.
Boy, it's quite a night, huh?
It went late, though. It went too late.
Willie, a little late.
I think the president just stopped speaking a few minutes
ago.
A
little late.
Not his fault.
No.
Just ran a little late with the program.
Late, but it was fabulous.
It was a good night.
They got to tighten it
I mean,
up.
they started the president's speech literally the same time they start Saturday Night Live.
Page of the
They
paper.
did.
I'm serious.
It's true.
I got
11:30.
I got to see those the next morning on, Hulu or something like that. It was like late,
Well,
but a great night.
It was.
Wonderful. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, and it's great for us to be together.
Yeah.
Unusual.
Look at this.
Look at this.
The host of the podcast On Brand with Donnie Deutsch. Donnie Deutsch.
In the house. Look, we got
at this.
in the house.
No.
Exactly.
And MSNBC.
Not regretting it yet.
Political analyst and publisher of the newsletter The Ink, Anand Girdardis. And in Chicago, the host of Way Too Early, White House Bureau Chief at Politico, Jonathan Lemire, and the president of the National Action Network and host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, Reverend Al Sharpton. Also with us, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and associate editor of The Washington Post, Eugene Robinson. Good to have you all on board with us this morning. Shall we dive in
Let's do it.
and hear from the president?
Let's do it.
Those people might have been asleep. President Joe Biden took to the stage to close out night one of the convention. He spoke for nearly an hour, listing off the accomplishments of his administration, criticizing former President Trump, and making the case for Vice President Kamala Harris as the best person to lead the country.
Trump continues to lie about crime in America, like everything else. Guess what? On his watch, the murder rate went up 30%, the biggest increase in history. Meanwhile, we made the largest investment, Kamala and I, in public safety ever. Now, the murder rate is falling faster than any time in history. Violent crime has dropped to the lowest level of more than 50 years. And crime will keep coming down when we put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon. Kamala and Tim will protect your freedom. They'll protect your your right to vote. They'll protect your civil rights. And you know Trump will do everything to ban abortion nationwide. Oh, he will. You know, Kamala and Tim will do everything they possibly can. That's why you have to elect a Senate and House to restore Roe v. Wade. Folks, I've got 5 months left in my presidency. I've got a lot to do. I intend to get it done. It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more.
You know, Willie, you're right. He hit all the notes. It was late, but there were people staying up, of course, on the West Coast and Nevada and Arizona, of course, in the Central Time Zone, not quite so late. And the president delivered, but this was a night, obviously, about Kamala Harris. She came out earlier in the evening. The place just exploded. She somehow, she's really stepped into this moment. JFK said so many years ago, When you see daylight, you run to it. He was talking politically why he ran in 1960. The daylight opened up, and I don't know of anybody who expected her to excel in the way she has to just absolutely explode on the national stage the way she has, and as positively as she has. And you're seeing in the numbers, in the polls, you're seeing in the number of volunteers. It's pretty extraordinary. And last night was the first night of her convention. And boy, what a star turn she took.
You know, one of the reasons that people who supported President Biden staying in the race didn't want him to drop out is because they were very worried about what would come next. And likely that would be Vice President Kamala Harris. We'll talk to them now, less than a month, believe it or not, since Joe Biden dropped out. He dropped out on July 21st. Today is August 20th. It's been less than a month since all this happened.
Unbelievable.
Talk to those people now and they say, well, I was wrong. I underestimated Kamala Harris. Shame on me. She's done an incredible job. Her campaign has done a great job. And we've heard about in all this polling, Donnie, the enthusiasm in the Democratic Party. We saw it last night in that hall for President Biden, for Hillary Clinton, for AOC, for all the people who came out, for the leaders of the union, for the victims of draconian abortion laws across the country. There was real living, breathing enthusiasm, the manifestation of everything we've seen on paper for the last couple of weeks.
Here's the very sophisticated analytics of it. It felt good. It just felt really good from start to finish. Biden, I mean, his...
By the way, Donnie, you're joking about it. You can't fake that.
No.
You just can't.
My next point.
People either enjoying themselves, they're happy, or they're not. I will say people always ask, well, how do you do the show? What is that? You know, Willie and Mika and I, we've been, for 17 years. They go,
it's 18.
What's the formula? How do you guys do it? What do we do? And we're like, we like each other.
Yeah.
We have fun. And we just, everybody that comes on, we have a good time. I mean, and you look at a convention like that, you can't calculate it. You have... in two Republican candidates, two guys who at least publicly, in their public persona, project misery. They're not happy. They're always looking
angry,
for retribution. They're looking for people to blame. They're looking for a reason to be upset. They're looking for a reason, to resent. And you look at the Democratic National Convention, and I swear I never thought I would see this in my lifetime. As a Republican, I thought it's just too easy to beat Democrats because they're afraid to have a good time. They're afraid to be joyful. They're afraid to wave the flag. I'll tell you, what Republicans feared the most last night was the joy, but also the chants of USA, USA, USA. And why did that ring true? Because the Republican Party has sold itself to a man who lies about America every day and says we're a nation in decline, who lies about America every day and says we're a nation of losers, who lies about America every day and says that we're just on the verge of collapse. No, not true. The data doesn't bear it out economically, militarily, culturally, socially, in every way. This is a great country. So now the Democratic Party can cheer USA, USA, USA. And it's a hell of a contrast with a presidential candidate on the Republican side that talks down about America every day on the stuff.
You know what's interesting about that? And I don't know if you guys are finding it as you talk to voters, if you talk to Trump voters. That joy, that jubilation, that kind of feel good is going to the voters. When I talk to people who are voting right now for Kamala, they're excited. You talk to people who are voting for Trump, they're pissed off. So it's kind of like trickling down to the populace and working its way back. And, I think elections are all run on gut, they're all run on feeling, they're all run on emotion, and it's all certainly calling Democrats. So final point on Biden, his one, when he talked about, I was too young to be a senator, I was too old to be president, and I gave it my best. I mean, that's a summation of this man's entire career. That's 50 years summed up in
this goes well to your piece, Anand, for The Ink, the rise of the Brat Pack and a new Democratic political style. My daughters gave me a tutorial on being brat at dinner the other night. I was like, okay, but it's a thing.
It's a thing. Obviously we're talking about the big story here is one candidate replacing another and the kind of triumph of Kamala Harris taking over this party. But I think there's a deeper story beneath the candidate swap, which is a kind of style, a new style that we've actually talked about over the years on this show, where things like storytelling, emotion, speaking to the gut, not just being policy-minded, but kind of throwing a better party.
That's a great set of words.
You know, these things have been neglected in recent years by Democrats. We talked at the end of last year on this set about, there was no movement. There was this kind of claim of an existential threat to democracy, but no movement, and people weren't acting like it. And I think with the ascension of Kamala Harris and the people she is listening to, which is more important in a way than one individual, there is a new political style in town. And we are seeing with this DNC a Democratic Party that is not just wonky, but knows how to generate joy, knows how to speak to people in those guttural places, knows how to tell that kind of story. And to your last point about that kind of joy that spreads, there's a weird word for this in political kind of junkie circles called mobisuasion, right? So you got persuasion. Mobisuasion is the idea that you don't persuade by watering down your stuff to cater to moderates in diners in Western Pennsylvania. You actually persuade by revving up your people so they can't stop talking about their excitement. And their uncles overhear their excitement. Their neighbors overhear their excitement. And so I think we're seeing a Democratic Party that's not so worried about moderate voters and is actually more worried about making people feel things in ways that create a kind of contagion of joy and enthusiasm.
And Joe mentioned something really important that you get at your piece as well, and that is reclaiming patriotism. This is not by accident. All the signs in the arena said USA on them. They were chanting USA, and this is a party, and our mutual friend, Governor Wes Moore, has talked a lot about this. I'm not ceding patriotism to Donald Trump. Just because you call yourself a patriot and you like to say our flags are bigger than yours, actual patriotism is something totally different. Something that does not look like staging a coup against the United States government, beating up police officers at the Capitol with an American flag. How important is that part of the message?
It's so important. It's a double reclaiming. It's reclaiming patriotism and reclaiming freedom. Both of these things were wrongly conceded to the far right. And
can I say why they were wrongly conceded? Because let's not go back and pretend. Democrats were afraid.
Absolutely.
I would be on sets with them in the 90s and the early 2000s. I'd say, America's great. They couldn't go, yes, it is.
Yep.
They could not do it. It was reflexive. It was weird. It's like, well, but look what we're doing here. Look what we're doing there. They couldn't do what Democrats learned how to do after Donald Trump started trashing America and say, you know what, America is great. We still have a long way to go to be a more perfect union, but we're doing that together. And that promise makes America even greater. Democrats, I don't know when they figured it out. They figured it out a couple of years ago, but they figured it out at the same time Republicans started nominating a candidate who literally doesn't get America, who literally stomps on America, who literally says that America's in decline, America's terrible. What does he say? What did he say? What was his inaugural speech? I keep forgetting.
American carnage.
Talked about American carnage. By the way, I still amazing. Talked about American carnage when crime rates were at a 50-year low and when illegal border crossings at the southern border were at a 50-year low. He talked about American carnage. That's how wrong he was about America being bad then. That's how wrong he is about America being bad now.
Yeah, and I think he has his story of America. And what was missing was, as you said, because I think a lot of Democrats felt it was cringe to be patriotic in that way, there was not always a counter-patriotism, a more progressive version of patriotism. And I think you're finding it now. It is not a patriotism that erases hard truths about American history.
Right.
It's not a patriotism that needs to lie or distort history.
No.
It's a patriotism about perfection and perfecting over time.
Well, and about the promise and the possibilities that America offers that other countries don't. And that's something that Donald Trump just, I think, brought out in the Democrats because they realized, don't take away our possibilities. Don't take away our promises. Don't take away our rights.